Pokemon hit us once again this past winter with another DLC expansion pack for Scarlet and Violet, known as the Hidden Treasure of Area Zero. So far, the only other taste we got of Pokemon's half-assed attempts at DLC were the expansion packs for Sword and Shield, the Isle of Armor, and the Crown Tundra. Now, while I did in fact purchase the Gen 8 DLC, this was one of the very few Pokemon purchases that I actually ended up regretting. The stories involved in these packs were short as hell, and let's be honest, this was more about us getting more Pokemon to catch. At least, that's what it felt like to me. A consolation prize for the National Dex Crisis, even though you had to pay for it. It was cool to get to explore the new additions to the world of Galar, but beyond a new area and new Pokedex entries, this was not anything special. The bar was set extremely low. But we're not talking about Sword and Shield. We're here for Gen 9 while we can still make content out of it. Some new games are on the horizon, but this past winter, I was super stoked on getting into this DLC. While the bar was set very low a few years ago, I've been very vocal about Scarlet and Violet's story being one of my favorites in a very long time. I held out a little more in hopes that this extension of the story would deliver just like the base game, and let me tell you, I was beyond impressed. I won't outright say that this was the best Pokemon DLC I've ever played. Actually, wait. Yes, I will. For DLC, this is definitely a step in the right direction, but let me tell you why, as we take a closer look into the hidden treasure of Area Zero. We start this expanded Paldean adventure actually leaving Paldea. Our talents have been so recognizable and significant that we've been chosen to go on a field trip to the land of Kitakami. Of course, the draw to this region, aside from a new area to explore, new Pokemon to discover, and perhaps a few regional forms, was the fabled lore of Kitakami, which you come to learn very soon. Our chaperone for this trip is a lovely woman named Briar. Oh, Briar. Oh, sorry. She represents the Blueberry Academy in Unova, and she has an intense fascination with the Scarlet and Violet book, as well as the legendary creature known as Terapagos, which, as you can imagine, has a deep connection with the Terra Crystals that this game's story revolve around. We arrive in the land of Kitakami, more specifically, Masui Town. We meet siblings Carmine and Kieran, who are native to this region and are complete polar opposites. They also attend the Blueberry Academy. Carmine might be one of the most abrasive Pokemon characters I've seen to date. Just an incredibly unwelcoming personality has you questioning whether or not she becomes your friend or your enemy. All we know is the people of Kitakami are, well, okay, it's literally just Carmine. She doesn't like visitors. Kieran, on the other hand, he just like me for real. These two are going to be spending a very long time with us on this adventure. To what capacity? Well, let's find out. You battle the sibling duo of Carmine and Kieran, and one thing to know right off the bat is that the lowest level Pokemon that you'll be fighting are within the level 50 to 60 range. That becomes evident pretty quickly, as most of the wild Pokemon and trainer battles, at minimum, are within this range, which I kind of expected considering it's the post-game. But I wouldn't have been upset if I had to downsize my team and start a little more fresh. That's never been the case here, though. Kieran's timid nature is reflected in his choice of Pokemon, as well as his battle style. He's a whole hell of a lot easier to become friends with than Carmine, and that just speaks to how opposite his personality is from his sisters. We accompany our new friend on our first quest of the DLC, which is to visit 3 signs around the villages in Kitakami that tell the legend of the Loyal 3. These Loyal 3 are known as Okidogi, Monkey Dory, and Pheasantipity. We also take selfies at these signs. We bop around to each sign and learn the story of the Loyal 3's heroic sacrifice to defeat an ogre-like Pokemon attacking the island. This ogre-like Pokemon, of course, is known as Ogerpon, who wore the titular Teal Mask. Ogerpon was yeeted from existence, seemingly, and the 3 sacrificial heroes were buried in a shrine forever idolized by the village folk in the form of an annual festival. As we continue learning more and more about these mythical creatures of legend, we start to notice Kieran's fixation with this story, specifically Ogerpon. He expresses interest in visiting the dreaded den where Ogerpon allegedly lives. We visit the sad den, make quick work of Kieran through another battle, all before realizing we're losing daylight. It's just about time to go to that festival we were talking about. Grandma helps us get decked out in some sweet new festival fashions. This shit is so cool. But you know what isn't cool? Ogre ousting. Look, I'm sorry, these minigames just don't do it for me. You can't tell me you enjoy this minigame when the frame rate is so shot. But we have to play a round of it, so we do. Shortly after, we accompany Carmine to chase after what appears to be a Pokemon of some sort, which ends up dropping its Teal Mask and breaking it. Okay, that's definitely Ogerpon. Excitedly, we want to tell Kieran what just happened, but Carmine keeps her mouth shut because she's afraid that he would be upset that we saw Ogerpon without him. The next morning, we bring Grandma and Grandpa the Teal Mask and tell them what we saw. This is when we learn the truth about Ogerpon. To local legend, Ogerpon was not an evil Pokemon like the people were making it out to be. In fact, Carmine's grandfather describes Ogerpon as a kind Pokemon that was simply rejected by the village due to its appearance. The village mask maker took it upon himself to create 4 different masks for Ogerpon to cover its face with, as a means to blend in and not be seen. The Loyal 3 attacked Ogerpon and its trainer and stole 3 of the 4 masks. Eventually, Ogerpon killed the Loyal 3, but could not regain the masks due to the reaction from the townsfolk, who thought Ogerpon was the one in the wrong, hence the belief that the Loyal 3 died in a heroic effort. Carmine starts to show her true colors here, as she decides to take it upon herself and repair the Teal Mask. Unfortunately, what we didn't know at the time was that our bashful friend Kieran heard some stuff that he probably didn't plan on hearing. We take care of our last signpost and travel with Carmine to the Crystal Pool, which will give us the crystal cluster needed to repair the broken Teal Mask. Guarding the key item, however, is a quite strong Milotic that Carmine helps us take down. We get the crystal cluster and head home, where tragedy awaits. As it turns out, Kieran stole the Teal Mask for himself and has us chase him to the shrine of the Loyal 3. And I can't say I really blame him, but I didn't really have a choice to keep it from him. As much as Carmine starts to show a change in character, her methods aren't really conducive to maintaining a healthy relationship with her brother. Or me, for that matter. I can't talk. But anyways, Kieran is furious and wants to battle again. I'm sorry, Kieran. He gives us a mask back and runs off, but here we get the revival of the infamous Loyal 3, Okidogi, Monkidori, and Pheasantipity. The shrine has been destroyed, and they head towards Kitakami Hall, so we book it over there. The villagers wasted no time welcoming these 3 beasts and giving them the 3 other masks, as well as mochi that's laced with herba mystica? Alright. We already know what that stuff does, so here we go, I guess. Things only ramp up as we're informed that they're headed to Ogerpon's home to finish the job. Carmine is going to take care of the mask while we head to the dreaded den to find the Loyal 3. And just like we anticipated, we're greeted by our fabled friends turned enemies for a battle against our first opponent, Monkidori. You can't catch these guys right away, which is kind of a bummer, but makes sense. But these battles are not necessarily a walk in the park. The 3 scatter once we defeat Monkidori, which leads us to go on a wild goose chase to find each of them. Thankfully, 3 random-ass people around Masui Town have very specific knowledge about where you can find each of them. These battles present a bit more of a challenge to us as we get the roided-up versions of the Loyal 3. We defeat all 3 of them, and as a reward, we get the 3 masks that Ogerpon has been missing the whole time. Justice is served for our new little ogre friend. And not only that, the people of Masui Town realize that they were wrong and apologize for their scorned ways. We escort Ogerpon back to the dreaded den. But as it turns out, Ogerpon doesn't want to go back home. In fact, it chooses you to go with, which shouldn't be a surprise since we're the protagonist and Ogerpon is a legendary Pokemon. Not so fast! Kieran, still consumed by rage from being lied to, challenges us to a battle where the winner gets to keep Ogerpon. At this point, Kieran's team is pretty cracked. This is the final battle with him from this part of the DLC, and honestly, if I had it my way, I'd let him take Ogerpon. I think he was done super dirty through all of this by no choice of ours, and he deserves it. He's the bigger fan of the lore and the history and just about everything that has to do with Ogerpon, and he's proved to grow into an incredible trainer during this adventure. However, I also understand why he doesn't just get to keep Ogerpon, and we'll get into that soon enough. After defeating Kieran, Ogerpon challenges us to a battle in order to catch it. This isn't a super duper walk in the park though, as we have to battle Ogerpon with all 4 masks, terastallized and titanified. Basically, think of it as 4 bosses. And once you defeat all 4, you're poised and ready to catch the dang thing. Woohoo! Kieran runs off home and locks himself in his bedroom, and Carmine challenges you to one final battle. Once that's complete, Briar informs us that herself, Carmine, and Kieran have to return to Blueberry Academy. And so we say goodbye to our newly made friends. But something tells me there's some unfinished business. And that's not because there's another DLC pack planned that we know about. Not at all. All jokes aside, I enjoyed the Teal Mask DLC. It felt short, sweet, and somewhat like it was left on a cliffhanger. We knew the Indigo Disk would be in our hands soon after that, but we didn't entirely have an idea of what the extended adventure would entail. So I believe it left just the right amount of intrigue going into that. So with that, let's move on to the Indigo Disk. As if things couldn't get any sweeter. As if we, the students of the Academy, couldn't be any more spoiled. As if we had seen enough. Clavel calls us up and congratulates us, as we have been chosen for a foreign exchange student program to the Blueberry Academy in the Unova region. Here we go. I obviously knew this was a completely new area and we wouldn't see any remastered areas of Unova. But just the fact alone that it was related to Unova, an extension of Unova, had me hyped. Gen 5 is one of my favorite set of games to play, and I was a super duper fan of their Pokedex. That's another thing too. With this DLC taking place in Unova, I knew we were going to be getting a slew of Unova Pokemon in this expansion, and I can't complain about that. We arrive at the Blueberry Academy where we meet Cyrano, the director of the Academy, and Lacey, a fellow student there. She's somewhat thrown at us as a guide, which I don't care too much for, but I know if this were real life, I would appreciate it. We do battle with her in the only way that we can in the Blueberry Academy, which is via double battle. By the way, this whole school is underwater, basically. They built a terrarium with different biomes inside of it underwater. How cool is that? We get the distinguished opportunity to attend class in the terrarium, which was really cool considering I didn't spend a lick of my time in class during the main game. Carmine gives us a call and invites us to catch up with her on how things have been. It's a nice little friendly reunion, with a battle, of course. But that's cut short when we notice someone harassing another student. And that someone is Kieran? We learn very quickly from Carmine that ever since the events of the Teal Mask, Kieran has had a change of focus and has dedicated all of his time to training and getting his revenge on us for betraying him. As it turns out, this dude went and became the champion of the Blueberry League in only a month. We then become quite close with another student named Drayton, aka Toothpaste Hair Boy, who's a member of the Elite Four of the Blueberry League. He's chosen us to defeat the Elite Four and take on Kieran to defeat him. This caused a whole lot of controversy considering we're just a foreign exchange student in a foreign league, but eventually everyone came to a consensus and decided it was fine. We're in, we can do that, but I know for a fact that it isn't going to be easy, as all the battles contested under Blueberry League rules are double battles, and I have terrible strategy. Much like our home league, though, every Elite Four member is preceded by an Elite Trial, a useless task that, for some reason, proves to them that we're worthy of a battle. Crispin, the fire trainer, requires us to barter ingredients with other league members in order to make him a sandwich. Steel trainer Amari requires us to complete a timed flying trial with our legendary companion. Very, completely different vibe. Fairy trainer friend from earlier, Lacey, gives us a cute little Pokemon quiz. Drayton's vibe, however, and I feel like you can tell this dude is a Dragon-type trainer simply based off his name starting with DR, is actually challenging. For Drayton's trial of trainers, you can only battle them with Pokemon you've caught in the terrarium. No trades, no Pokemon from Paldea, nothing other than the ones you've caught right here in the DLC. I can't speak for everyone who's played this, but this was definitely a challenge for me considering my goal was just to try to get through this DLC with the team I graduated the main game with. Once the trial's out of the way, we can rearrange our team back to the way we want it before battling Drayton. The one thing I will say about this entire Elite Four challenge, you may think you have type coverages all taken care of, but I'm gonna say this, likely you don't. Each Elite Four team seemingly has an answer for every answer that you think you have. They had fun with all the dual typings in this one, I'll say that much. Alas, we bulldozed through the league. I even hesitate to say bulldoze. I'd say we've survived the league. We take out Kieran, and my goodness, he does not take it well. We get a Master Ball, though. Briar then summons us to inform us of the famed Terapagos' location, underneath Area 0 in Paldea. We're going on a field trip within a field trip. Gita and Rika make an appearance and give us the Indigo Disk. That's it, boys. Roll the credits. Just kidding, we've got some work to do. Briar takes us along to Area 0 with Carmine and Kieran, who decides his next statement against the critics will be to catch Terapagos and silence everybody for good. Just when you think we can't go any deeper into Area 0, we do, in fact, go underneath it. The Zero Lab that our professor had been living in for so long would not allow us to use the computer, but it will allow us to insert the Indigo Disk, which enables the elevator to take us even deeper than we previously thought we could go. The underdepths of Area 0 provide us with more info on Terapagos, courtesy of the professor.
And a brand new Terra type known as Stellar. Stellar, quite simply put, acts as all Pokemon types at once. Just when we thought it couldn't get more convoluted. Battling through a plethora of Stellar-type Pokemon, we finally arrive at a large Crystal Terra tree and find a small gem which Briar tells us is the famed Terapagos. Kieran is pissed. He wants to battle again, but he's mad that we're stronger than him and so much more cooler and not cringe. So he awakens Terapagos and immediately catches it using the fucking Master Ball. We battle Terapagos, but this feels like a pretty straightforward and simple boss battle. Briar realizes something is off. She wants us to battle each other once again, but this time to see what true power Terapagos is capable of. We won the first battle, but that's only because Terapagos wasn't terastallized. Come on, Kieran. So we try again with a terastallized Terapagos, but it gets out of control. It breaks free from its Master Ball. Kieran is in his feelings. We're in danger. Carmine's helping us. Carmine gets defeated. Terapagos is changing types. We're all alone. But Kieran steps up. He helps us defeat Terapagos, and then we're miraculously allowed to catch it with no clapback from Kieran. With that, we ride off into the sunset, and we complete this story. Thank you, Briar, for your supervision as our chaperone for this adventure. She says, "You're welcome." I thought that this DLC story was a great way to build off of a story that was arguably one of the more emotionally charged ones in the Pokemon franchise. These characters had development. Such a short story felt like it had longevity. Everything felt like it had purpose. You got to fight a second Pokemon League, and not only that, a strictly double battle league. These battles were challenging. I am bad at this game. Most important to me, though, this didn't feel like it was just DLC to be just DLC. Sure, we got some new additions to the Pokédex, but with the last game's DLC, you could clearly tell Game Freak were trying to make amends for the whole Dex crisis. You explore a brand new area that just so happens to be part of a region that you're familiar with as a Pokemon fan. You learn about the lore. These Pokemon tried killing each other. A lot of revelations in this new expansion. And what felt like I had put hours into it was really only a story that was a couple hours long. In my humble opinion, this is how DLC should be done for Pokemon games going forward. In fact, screw the Crown Tundra, screw the Isle of Armor. Those didn't count. While it is unfortunate that Pokemon has reached the era of DLC, this is the foundation for future expansion packs. This is what we should build off of. And the best part, it can only get better from here. Right? Thank you so much for taking this journey with me. This video has been in the works for quite some time, as you can see, but it finally paid off in what I think was a fun analysis of an adventure that I thoroughly enjoyed. Check out my channel if you crave more Pokemon content, and be sure to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss another video, and leave a comment to let me know your thoughts on the DLC. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next one.